they should get it for free, and they don't think that you should have to pay for music. And
well, it's all about streaming and downloads now.
The record industry in those days was a lot like the Hollywood motion picture industry in those days, in the 30s and 40s, where you had a studio that supported you, that groomed you, that dressed you, that created projects for you specifically. You were groomed. It was like grooming. That, of course, does not exist. Now it's kind of anything goes. If you want to try to make, I feel so sorry for young acts, young bands trying to break out these days, because what do? You post something on Facebook with 10 billion other people. Yeah. Maybe you get lucky, maybe you don't, but more importantly, you don't get direction, you don't get guidance, you don't get a mentor.
They didn't pay their dues. They don't pay their dues.
And they don't pay, they can't pay their dues. How are you going to pay your dues?
So there's no place for kids to play anymore. The clubs, I mean, we grew up in Chicago, and on Rush Street, there was 40 clubs that were live every night. You had, all the musicians. I mean, when the Buckinghams had broken up, I went back to playing in the clubs for a long time, and I mean, we would do 5 sets a night, 5 shows a night. You know, on Saturday you do 6 shows, and that was 5 or 6 nights.
But it is really different now. There's no direction. You know, I know some really talented kids that are doing it now, but all they do is they put their stuff up on YouTube or on the internet and try to get downloads and streaming happening, and there's just stuff, it's all over the place.
Yeah, but the backside of that is a lot of these big stars that are out. You guys, when you go see our shows, everybody on the boat here, or the ship, they're really singing, okay? They're really singing,
and there's no auto tune on this ship.
You know, what's coming across the mouth to the microphone or off the amplifier, it's all real. The stuff today, I've heard board mixes of some of the new people come out, and it was hey man, you want to hear this one of this particular artist? I go, yeah. Just throw it in. I go, what is she doing?
Yes, there's a very famous.
They're lip syncing to the records.
There's a very famous dancer singer whose name I won't bring up, who auto-tune's been around for about 2 decades now, and it was pretty rough like 15 years ago. But I heard the tapes, the tracks. What am I saying? The original multi-tracks of her singing without auto-tune, and it's scary. I mean, believe me. I mean, and now everybody's using auto-tune, but they're not only using it to make their voices in pitch, they're using it for all kinds of crazy effects, which I kind of like.
I remember the first record I remember was "Believe" by Cher that had the auto-tune.
Oh yeah, she pioneered that.
That was the beginning of the 90s.
Yeah, that was kind of
fun.
That was a certain kind of effect. Jump in her voice,
And then, of course, with digital editing, you can sing the verse once, and they'll just copy it to later in the song.
Sing this word. Right. We'll put it in later. Fine.
Yeah, that's with digital. You could just do one good chorus in the song and then move it to all the different parts of the song.
Which sounds really weird because nobody sings the same thing twice.
Right.
I think one of the things that digital recording with all the millions of possible tracks. The same thing with writing, as I used to do a lot of writing. When word processors came in, for me, it got a little sloppy because you didn't have to think about it. You could just write anything over and over again, a million versions, and then you go back
and pair.
But when you were working on a Smith Corona with carbon paper, and the little eraser with the little... You had to be careful.
And your bandmate's mother invented liquid paper that made it a little easier.
But now with computers, who cares? You had to be more careful. You had to do some pre-editing. Sure. And the same thing when you were in the studio. You had to rehearse the song, routine the song a bunch of times. Because it was very expensive to record, much more expensive to record back then. And
You came in real well prepared.
You had to be well prepared because you couldn't spend 6 hours doing 30 different versions of
At
the same
$120 an
vocal.
hour.
You had at 100 or more, and you had to kind of get most of it right. And sometimes I remember recording a vocal along with the rhythm section, in a little booth or something, because you had to get on with it, especially in my case, I was sometimes recording 3 lead vocals a night in between filming on that television show.
At CBS, they expected you to do 3 tracks in a session. A session lasted 3 hours. They wanted 3 tracks, 3 tracks a session.
And I was going to say, what you're saying, between the Buckinghams originally broke up in 1970 and then we reformed again in 1980, and there was that 10-year period, and I was what it was known as a jingle singer. I was singing commercials, I sang on maybe 300 different commercials in that time period. But anyway, that's what they used to do. You'd go into a big studio and they'd put me in a vocal booth, and the orchestra would be out there and the whole band and everything, and you had to just nail it. You had to get that, because you didn't want to be the one to blow it, and not, because they wanted to, time was money. They had to get the whole thing done in about an hour.
Just like Frank Sinatra did.
Yeah, that's what in the old days, what they used to do. So that's the whole different
Today,
time.
the art has been taken out from the artist. In other words.
Then I have 2 questions for you. Can you tell us some jingles that we might remember?
Come on, Carl, give us.
Well, do you remember at the
Sing
end
Cheerios.
of a commercial for United Airlines, and it was "Fly the Friendly Skies"? That was me that did all those. And Big Mac, Filet-O-Fish, Quarter Pounders, French fries, icy Cokes, thick shakes, sundaes, and apple pies. It was a jingle. Da 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 da. You deserve a break today at McDonald's. RC Cola, a lot of beer commercials, whatever. It was. It was great business, very lucrative.
Yeah, very.
I did
a lot of, I didn't do the jingle part, funnily enough. I ended up doing a lot of the voices. I was Snuggles the Bear.
You were so cute, so
You
clever.
still are, Mickey, to this day.
I was up for Mickey Mouse. It was in the 70s.
You were for Mickey?
Mickey Mouse in the 70s.
What great casting, man.
Gee, I was down to me and this other guy, and he got it, but I was down to me. Hi, Goofy.
That'll be on YouTube later.
Yeah, you're gonna regret that.
We're getting ready to wrap up. Mickey, the story of the Monkees is long involved, and it's a lot of people disagree. Where's the one place people can get the best story aside from hanging out with you on the Flower Power Cruise? But which documentary, which book?
This is the only truth right here.
True.
It's like a little bit like Rashomon. Mm-hmm. The Japanese fairy tale Rashomon. Everybody experiences the same event in a different way. Anything's like that. So I can tell you my version. There's a wonderful, fairly accurate book, I think, by Andrew Sandoval, who, I don't know if Andrew's even here right now, but he wrote a good one. But, there were so many people involved, and everybody came at it from a very different point of view, including the producers. But don't forget, the Monkees was not just the 4 of us. It was Bob Rafelson and Bert Schneider and Jim Frawley and Donnie Kirshner and the writers, Carole King and Boyce and Hart and Jackie Cooper at Screen Gems Television, and then the buyers at NBC who had to clear everything through. And there was a whole lot of people. Paul Mazursky wrote the pilot, that wonderful, famous writer comedian. There was a whole lot of people, and each of them came at it from a very different point of view. So, is there a definitive story? No, probably not. I'm not sure there ever could be, because you have these different points of view coming at it all. And look up Rashomon, the Japanese fairy tale.
Or a car wreck with everybody standing on a different corner, and they see the same wreck, and there's four completely different stories.
So at least
the simple truth was, everybody talks about the Monkees as a band. It was not a band. It was a television show, originally. It was a television show about a band that wanted to be the Beatles. And that's what the show was about. On the show, we never made it.
You guys came close in real life.
Well, that was another story. That's almost like there was two monkey groups. There was the monkey group on the TV show, which were these actor, singer, musicians playing the part of these wacky guys living in a beach house in Malibu, which does beg the question of how we could afford a beach house in Malibu when we never got any work, because we didn't. On the show, we were never successful. That's one of the fundamental, sort of sensibilities that I think was really smart whenever they came up with.
You never made it, so you always struggled.
We never made it. It was the struggle for the success that I think is one of the things that endeared it. Because on the Beatle movies, say, everybody says Hard Day's Night is a... It wasn't. On Hard Day's Night and Hell, of course, two of the greatest pop movies ever made, they were the Beatles. They were famous. They were the Beatles, and they had concerts and screaming fans. Stuff. On the Monkey Show, we were unknown, totally and completely unknown, and never made it on the TV show. Now, when we went on the road, of course, and that all happened, Mike Nesmith always used to say it's like Pinocchio becoming a real little boy. All of a sudden, we went out there and we played those friggin' concerts, by ourselves. There's a little CD that Rhino put out called Monkeys Live in '67, and it sounds like shit. I mean, it's like, technically, it was somebody holding up a microphone or something. But you can hear just the four of us out there like some garage band, just wailing. And musically,
but it was real.
The spirit was like real. I mean, we were, and you listen to that and you go, yeah, okay, that was fun. But if you understand that dynamic, if you understand that the Monkees started out as this, so there's almost like these two different groups. The one on the show that was sort of imaginary,
the one on the stage,
and the ones on stage. Yeah.
Well, Mickey, thanks for setting us straight. Mickey will be appearing on the All Access Pass at 4 p.m. today. Casey will do another hour long with Mickey. Mark Lindsay, Paul Ferrier, the Raiders, 50 Stumbers of Love, unbelievable. Great show. Pittsburgh Cheerleader, Carl G. Marisi, the Buckinghams, original members. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to have the guys exit this way, and if you guys want to go around that way, you can get your autographs. But thank you so much for the Q&A and for the Flower Power Cruise. We urge you to sign up for next year.